And the Tom Ross leather jacket returning. He's not always wearing it, always happy to see it. It is chilly here in sunny Milwaukee.
They can be both at the same time. Actually, frequently are. Tom starts off turn 1, Glistener Elf off Pendelhaven. Something he knows well. For Keenan, he'll go Noble Hierarch and a pass. Interesting choice here. So in the Bant Eldrazi deck, Keenan's gotten to the point where he has 3 main deck copies of Engineered Explosives. A difficult thing to do when you have Noble Hierarch in the same deck.
Yeah, you end up killing your own Hierarch some percentage of the time. You know, really, though, you're just trying to set up your Eldrazi temples, getting enough lands to cast your spells, and then the Hierarch loses a lot of its purpose. And realistically, a lot of your opponents are going to kill your Noble Hierarch anyway. Infect is known for twisted imaging them. So that sort of thing does happen. And explosives, there's a lot of 2 and 3 mana stuff you want to hit anyway. In particular, in Bant Eldrazi is much more worried about Blighted Agent than Glistener Elf.
So takes a look at a hand and draws a card. Saw a second land. He now knows about the Engineered Explosives. There's also a Matter Reshaper, an Eldrazi Sky Spawner, an Eldrazi Displacer. A lot of 3-drops here for Keenan. And now Tom, he's got to play a little more conservatively. You see he's got another Glistener Elf in hand to go with Blossoming Defense, but committing a second 1-drop to the board may not be where he wants to start.
Yeah, I'm sure Keenan would not mind blowing up his own Hierarch if he got 2 Glistener Elves for his trouble. And interestingly, you know, the Noble Hierarch, the only real mana acceleration going on for Keenan here, so maybe even forcing that trade, you feel like you can choke Keenan on his mana?
And Tom's going to swing for a bunch of damage. Main phase Might of Old Krosa for 5 on Glistener Elf. Now, I think this is neat here. He actually could have Pendelhavened and then done it, deciding not to.
Yeah, representing something with this 1 mana here. I believe a Dismember is in, or no, I apologize. The card, I see Mutagenic Growth, rather.
Mutagenic Growth, Blossoming Defense.
So you get it up to 9 on this turn, which would not be ideal, really.
Okay, so here's what I want to just look at the hand that Tom kept for a second. So he'll play the second Glistener Elf and pass. Turn 1 Glistener Elf. Turn 2 he had, I believe, just a turn 2 kill. Is that real? I think
Pendelhaven, Might of Old Krosa main phase, Blossoming Defense.
Mutagenic Growth.
Mutagenic Growth.
Gross.
He doesn't have enough mana to
Oh, no,
do
he has
it.
to tap Pendelhaven. So Keenan will make Engineer Explosives on 1 and pass the turn. Tom knew about this, so now he's going to swing in with the 2 elves. He's curious if Keenan's going to crack the explosives or if he's just going to take some poison.
It might be worth taking the poison, though you don't want to get yourself into a range where just the Blighted Agent very easily kills you with any spell.
Yeah, you don't want okay. Keenan cracks the Engineer Explosives. Does Tom have another play? That's going to be the big question. Can he reload? A Blighted Agent would be huge here.
And Tom committing that Glistener Elf like that sort of signaled to Keenan, I don't really care if you Engineered Explosives, though his hand really does care.
So Keenan draws Eldrazi Temple for the turn. He's going to cast Ancient Stirrings. Sees another Temple, Sky Spawner, Smasher. And he's going to check what he wants to take. That the Reality Smasher is looking pretty appealing right here. End the game quickly.
I am kind of a fan of Sky Spawner to have a flying blocker in case an Inkmoth Nexus shows up, but seeing as that was not Tom's land drop, the Smasher is a lot more inviting.
Well, Keenan already has 1 Sky Spawner in his hand. That would be the second one.
Sure.
You see he's going to do exactly what you said. He'll play the Sky Spawner, get a Scion. And now next turn, he's ready to smash.
Yes.
Doesn't have the land in hand, but could use the Scion to get it. Tom's draw, he plays Verdant Catacombs and just passes back to Keenan. No creatures yet for Ross.
And the Thought-Knot Seer, I believe, was the pickup for Keenan. I like that even better than going for the Smasher, though. Getting aggressive is also quite good.
Keenan doesn't. Here's a swing of 7. Hit him while he's down. Keenan's hand, Displacer, Thought-Knot, Ancient Stirrings. Not interested in any of that.
Tom giving some pause to potentially fetching up a Dryad Arbor and using some pump spells to make a block, though it's unclear how he could actually win a game from doing so.
Yeah, he's going to fetch down to 16. Yeah, I mean, Smasher has Trample. Okay, so he might try to block and kill Smasher?
Might try to block and use double pump spells.
Okay, so let's see. The Arbor's a 1/1. The Pendulum can make it a 2/3. If Tom has a Become Immense, he could just eat the Smasher here.
I think he only has ways to make it trade even. He has Vines or Blossoming Defense plus Mutagenic Growth.
No, Pendlehaven
yeah,
and then
I
Vines. It can
yeah.
pot tap itself.
Vines and Blossoming Defense, or Mutagenic Growth. Yeah. Okay, there we go.
So he burns most of his hand to eat the Reality Smasher. That pump put Dryad Arbor all the way up to a 6/7.
Then
now Tom draws.
Just Vines left over in hand. Not a lot of action.
Yeah, he did not. He's trying to buy time to hit an Infector.
If he top decked Blighted Agent there, it is lethal with just the kicked Vines.
Right.
So that's a lot of the spirit. Those pump spells are sort of extras if you think about the game that way. And it's very unlikely that he's punching through with anything that's not Blighted Agent.
Yeah, I guess you're right here. He doesn't hit, though. He hits Keenan regular damage down to 15. But now Keenan will reload. Here's Ancient Stirrings, finds him a Temple Garden.
Below average find.
Yeah, but it might be good enough. He can play it and Thought Knot here. He's building his way toward a Drowner in his hand. Once he hits that card, we may be done on Tom Ross's side.
And he was missing on a land drop, so finding just any land there is totally fine.
Yeah, it looks like instead of Thought Knot, it'll be Matter Reshaper for Keenan Davidson.
Blocker for the Dryad Arbor. Put an end to that.
Like it. Swings for 2. Tom down to 8. The race to me does not seem important, though. Once Keenan hits the Drowner, I think we're done.
Yes.
Inkmoth. All right. It's some amount of game for Tom.
I suspect Keenan will not be attacking with his Sky Spawner on the following turn.
Yeah, Tom would have to top deck a Distortion Strike. Does he play one? No, that's going to make it harder. He plays a Rancor.
He plays 2 Dismembers that you could remove the blocker with.
Noble Hierarch from Keenan and Thought Knot Seer. So he did not get the mana for the display for the Drowner. This means that there's a window for Tom. How big that window is, less clear. Tom's going to activate Inkmoth, Vines with Kicker It. Now he has a 5/5 blocker. Thought Knot resolves, takes nothing. But can Tom win from here? That one I'm not as sure of. He draws 1 card. Believe it's a land.
I believe it's Become Immense.
Just kidding. Okay, Become Immense. A block.
Good block.
Tom pumps with Pendlehaven. He passed back.
Now, Keenan needs a Reality Smasher to make his attack lethal on this turn, though the Dryad Arbor can just jump in front of the Thought Knot Seer, but then it's 5/3. That's lethal.
So Keenan swings for 7. He does have a Spellskite in hand. He also now thinks that Noble Hierarch has enough mana to cast Drowner. You can see Tom's going to go for a chump block here. Trying to give himself 1 more draw. Tom's doing a great job of buying himself extra turns in this game.
Yes. Getting a lot of extra looks that not every player will be able to get here.
But Keenan finally bridges the gap to Drowner of Hope. 2 Scions means 2 taps, and I don't think there's a draw that saves Tom Ross anymore.
No, there's no split-second way to give the Inkmoth Nexus hexproof.
Yeah, I mean, if it was only 1 Scion, Tom could activate, Vines it when Keenan goes to tap. But with 2 Scions, I'm not sure. So Inkmoth, Keenan's going to try to tap it. I guess Tom could have Blossoming Defense Vines, and that would win. It gets tapped.
Doesn't have enough mana. You need a land.
No, that would work. You just don't kick the Vines. But regardless, he plays Blighted Agent.
Sure.
Keenan taps it. Tom's tapped out. Keenan's got some creatures. We're on to game number 2.
If you don't kick the Vines, you don't have lethal, actually.
Oh, no, he's only at 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Ew. All right. Tom putting up a good fight. I'm interested about going back to that play where he commits the second Glistener Elf.
Yes.
I
was
guess
curious.
I didn't expect it. I suppose there was never a point after that when Glistener Elf would have been a good attacker.
Right.
Keenan had the ground covered.
Really looking for a Blighted Agent and Inkmoth Nexus. And if you figure you can't win the game by attacking with Glistener Elf, and realistically that wasn't going to punch through, you may as well just play the second one. Force Keenan to blow up his Noble Hierarch and hope that he stumbles on his mana. You know, Tom only saw a second land in Keenan's hand.
Yeah, and that's one of those veteran moves where from our side, you first say, why would you throw away a card like that? But then you think about it more and you say, wait, Tom realized it was never a card in the first place.
Yep.
Let's look at the sideboards. Go to Tom Ross first. 3 Nature's Claim, 2 Twisted Image, 3 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Spell Skite, a Viridian Corruptor, a Pithing Needle, and a Necropede.
Not a lot going on here at Tom's side. If you suspect that Spell Skite is one of the tools that Keenan is going to use against you, then Twisted Image becomes pretty solid. Nature's Claim is okay for the same reason. I'm not in love with it. There's an argument for Pithing Needle just to name Engineered Explosives, which I like a good amount. You could also Spell Skite to get after Drowner or Path to Exile. So the biggest find, likely the Twisted Image, of course, Noble Hierarch, possibly Spell Skite. Spell Skite of his own, very okay. Pithing Needle for Explosives, I like a good amount.
Now, so Tom Ross down a game here. You see the 2 next to his name. What a race that is. He and Jeff Hoagland, just 1 point separate them this weekend. And they have matched each other round for round today. Both of them sitting at 6-1. They're trying to become player of the year. So you see right now, 254, 253, a full 50-point lead on the next player. That's Andrew Tenjum. So it's going to be one of these 2 men almost certainly taking the season title. But as to who it's going to be, this is just a barn burner.
Oh yeah, this is really close. And you're looking at an entire invitational win plus a couple reasonable weekends for anybody behind them to catch up.
Now, in general, what's happened is that Jeff has been farther ahead in Modern, and Tom has caught up Jeff in every other format, including invitationals. Mm-hmm. So mixed format, standard, Tom's better, but Jeff has had this amazing run with Kiki Cord. Now, what's interesting is that Jeff is off the deck now. He's been playing Jeskai aggro. Mm-hmm. And Tom, I mean, he's no slouch at Modern either. He got second place with 8 rack in our last Modern Open, and now has really caught Jeff. Jeff entered Season 3 with a lead, and that's all but evaporated.
Tom also has a top 8 with Dredge.
Yeah.
Wide range for him.
So Jeff trying to hang on. We have this weekend, and we have 3 more opens before the Invitational, 1 of every format: Standard, Modern, Legacy.
And if you talk about Legacy weekend, Tom Ross almost certainly going to be a stronger Legacy player than Jeff.
Yeah, generally, I mean, Tom has Infect in his wheelhouse, and Jeff has the decks he's known.
Been known to put a Needle Spires onto the battlefield a time or two.
Yeah, he's got a big red in his pocket for Legacy, but a lot of the decks that he like to play have fallen out of the format.
Yes.
So when we go over to Keenan Davidson sideboard, up a game with Bant Eldrazi, I just want to quickly run through what he has. Grafdigger's Cage, a 4th Engineered Explosives, Negate, Stubborn Denial, Worship, Stony Silence, Rest in Peace. I like Worship. I like the 4th EE. A lot of this other stuff I'm not too into, though.
Mostly looking at EE, Stubborn Denial. Stubborn Denial is an efficient way to deal with an interactive spell.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be able to use the Ferocious part of it very often, but just a 1-mana Force Spike may be good enough here.
Mm-hmm. And we saw in Game 2, he had Ferocious online in a game that he wasn't necessarily going to win. So the counterspell there could have been quite powerful.
Mulligan here for Keenan Davidson. He'll be on the draw this game. Now, where things got interesting for Tom Ross in this race was the Season 2 Invitational. He was 1 win. No, he top 8'd that Invitational. Now, had he won that, he would have probably run away with the race, but he actually met some defeat in Modern. He played Dredge and had a 3-0 loss to Liam Lonergan, the relatively unknown player. He ended up going all the way through the top 8 with his Elves deck. 8-0 in the Swiss, 3-0 through the top 8, became the champion. And now we are giving away his token. If you haven't seen this one yet, this is being given away at all of our Opens and Classic weekends all season. This is Liam Lonergan's Elf Warrior token. That card with Dwinnen's Elite carried him to victory Season 2 in New Jersey. Now, if you can't make it out to one of our weekends, we have 3 more this year before the Invitational. You can also get it by placing an order of StarCityGames.com of at least $5, and one of these will ship with the order. So a great token. This one's going to be available for a couple more months here. On 6, Keenan keeps and scries to the bottom. We are underway. Tom Ross on the play, game number 2. He'll start with Noble Hierarch. And Keenan matches.
Things are going well for both players so far, though. Tom's deck generally better positioned to take advantage of extra mana.
Yeah, you see Tom with it moves Twisted Image right to the front of his hand. This is something where I have not seen so many Twisted Images
It's a big
in a
weekend.
while. Yeah.
It's a big weekend for Twisted Image for sure.
Keenan, look at this. He's set up for the turn 2 Thought Knot. It's a great hand. He has Thought Knot Seer, 2 Eldrazi Temples, an EE, and a Stubborn Denial. This is just about perfect.
Given the presence of 2 temples, it's interesting to lead with Noble Hierarch because this specific thing can go wrong.
Yeah, Tom goes ahead and Twisted Images away the Hierarch.
And you get the Stubborn Denial online on the same turn.
And now Tom plays Necropede, and this is great because he knows about the Engineered Explosives in Keenan's hand.
2 mana creature over the Glistener Elf that's in his hand.
Right, so Keenan's draw for the turn is Path to Exile. An interesting draw to be sure here because now he has to pick with Path versus... I was going to say versus Engineered Explosives, but no. He has no white mana. He just plays Temple and passes. No castable cards just yet.
Yeah.
Stubborn Denial can play, but Tom knows about it.
And given the presence of Eldrazi Temple, Banned Eldrazi is about the only deck that can be punished for choosing to cast Noble Hierarch on turn 1.
Right, because, yeah, you can get to 4 mana on turn 2 in a lot of different ways, but you kind of have to lock it in when you make that first land drop.
And just given double Temple, I'm kind of surprised to see that play, and it is punishing him in a big way. He has no board instead of a Thought Knot Seer.
Swing from Ross with Necropede, exalts to a 2/2. He'll stick 2 poison onto Keenan. Plays a land. He knows that Thought Knot with Stubborn Denial backup is likely Keenan's play next turn. Stubborn Denial, a straight up negate thanks to Thought Knot Seer.
Yes.
And it's hard for Tom to play around. His hand is 2 Glistener Elves, a Blossoming Defense.
Like Dismember?
Dismember, yeah. Plays the Glistener Elf, passes.
Yeah, I like this here, because now he's playing into explosives, but he would rather be hit by explosives than Thought Knot Seer plus Stubborn Denial here.
Here's Thought Knot from Keenan. Tom shows the hand. Defense, Elf, Dismember. Tom on a bit of a clock here, and maybe more of a clock than he realizes. Keenan's last 2 turns have been given him Path to Exiles. Now, he doesn't have the white mana yet, but when he does, things are going to get very weak for Tom. Looks like Keenan selects Blossoming Defense, leaves Tom with an Elf and a Dismember. Remember, there is Stubborn Denial in Keenan's hand, so Dismember not going to hit the mark.
Yeah, and Tom has this Ink Moth Nexus here. That's his avenue to make profitable attacks. I like just not casting the Dismember because in a perfect world, Tom can get Keenan to Stubborn Denial the Dismember instead of a pump spell.
Yeah, we'll see what Tom drew. I mean, yeah, a pump spell, either a Become Immense or a Vines of Vast would be a huge draw here for Tom.
Yeah.
It would mean he would get to take down the Thought Knot. He'll get to draw a card when he does. Swing with the 2 Infectors, Necropede and Blighted Agent for Tom. This feels like a Vines.
Well, even just defense here, you're a 3/3 versus the Thought Knot Seer, and then you can put the -1/-1 counter from the Necropede on it.
Interestingly, actually, once the Thought Knot has a counter on it, the Ferocious on Stubborn Denial no longer is going to work.
Yeah.
So it goes from being negate to Force Spike.
Bit of a downgrade.
Vines of Ashwood from Tom, but this is not what I expected him to do with it. I thought he was going to cast it on the Necropede. Now he's going on the unblocked Glistener Elf. And this is a big misplay by Kevin. So Tom goes for Vines of Vastwood. Keenan Stubborn Denials it. Then Tom dismembers the Thought Knot and pays for the Stubborn Denial.
Really well executed by Tom here.
Yeah. I guess you're right. Keenan didn't know about the Dismember, but this is just all sorts of bad for him.
He saw the Dismember. Tom didn't cast it in response to Thought Knot Seer, which was a great play, and it paid huge dividends.
Yeah. A misstep by Keenan, punished heavily, goes to 7 poison, 3 attackers for Keenan or for Ross. I think this is the end of the game.
This is another match for the Tom Ross highlight reel.
Yeah, both players knew about the cards, and Tom, what he does here is he paces his play in such a way that Keenan misses it.
He's extremely methodical.
Engineer Explosives on 1 for Keenan Davidson. Brushland, okay, Okay, we're playing Magic.
Yeah, that's a huge pickup.
He can crack the explosives on one. His hand remaining is 2 Path to Exiles. He could only cast one of them, but he's got a chance now. Explosives are going to be cracked, taking care of both of the 1-drops. So Tom, I guess, has 2 attackers, and Keenan has 2 paths. Tom draws Pendelhaven. That's big.
And his leftover, still he has that other Glistener Elf.
Yeah, Keenan will still need another draw. But I guess if you give Keenan, say, a Drowner off the top, I could see him winning from here.
Sure.
Inkmoth, swing. This will put Keenan to 9 poison. Tom's not even going to pump with Pendelhaven. Or he'll go for the kill. Try to pump Necropede. Okay, well, Keenan's got a path. Does he have an option? I don't think so. Taps it. Takes a damage for white mana. Paths to Necropede, so he'll go to 8 poison. Gives Tom another land.
Now Tom will be following up with that Glistener Elf, and he'll have 2 lethal attackers with the Pendelhaven.
Okay, yeah, we're still still playing. Last card for Tom, Glistener Elf. Keenan needs some sort of creature, a Smasher, a Drowner. A Displacer would be pretty nice too.
Yeah.
And Engineered Explosives, that actually plays.
Okay, he can path the Inkmoth, he can Explosives away the Glistener Elf.
He's going to run back last turn, puts Explosives on 1. Has 2 mana.
Dead to a Vines, dead to a Blossoming Defense.
Passes the turn. Tom draws Rancor. Okay.
Not dead to a Rancor.
What's interesting from Tom is, does he want to play the Rancor at all? He'll activate and swing. No, it's a good move by Tom. Engineered Explosives and Path to Exile. Board's clean. Tom just got a Rancor. We're in a top deck fight now.
Tom has his 2 forests in play, nothing to find off of Path to Exile.
Looks like a 3rd Explosives was the draw for Keenan. It's like, as long as Tom's next threat is not an Inkmoth Nexus, that will play.
Yeah.
Tom, though, is going to fetch up Dryad Arbor. All right. I'm going to beat you up this way.
Theoretically, Tom could have his sideboard Viridian Corruptor, which Keenan does not have 3 colored mana sources to blow up.
Do you think Tom rancors the Dryad Arbor? I mean, it's pretty free, right? Once he draws an Infector, it's lethal.
Yeah, Keenan's at, well, he's at 8 poison. He has Pendelhaven plus it.
All right, here it comes, 2 regular damage. But look at that draw from Tom. It's perfect. It's Inkmoth Nexus.
Actually, I think that this Rancor just has way more bluffing equity.
We were talking about how this was the draw Keenan needed. All right, Drowner of Hope. That is the card for Keenan Davidson.
Reasonable pickup.
Dismember for Tom Ross, but that works.
Oh,
he
wow.
dismembers pre-combat.
Can't tap my Nexus. It's not a creature.
One good top deck deserves another.
Oh,
all right, we're on to game 3. Fine.
Jeez.
That's how we do it, I guess.
They don't call him the boss for nothing.
Yeah. Nice top deck. Let me. Yeah.
Oh,
Let me kill it.
Let's give him his due. All right. A lot of players
Yeah.
don't get to see that many cards in that game.
No, you're absolutely right. Well played there, Tom, forcing the deciding 3rd game against Keenan Davidson. And think about this. This was against a hand. Keenan's sure it was a mulligan to 6, but the hand was a double Temple Thought-Knot Seer deck hand out of Bant Eldrazi. Those are not hands that lose very often.
And I keep getting hung up on the turn 1 Noble Hierarch instead of Eldrazi Temple. This could have been a very different game.
Yeah, maybe, I'm not sure Twisted Image is always on everyone's radar here. Thinking that, oh yeah, Tom's just going to kill my Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, and the payoff that you get if the Hierarch survives is you get to have the Hierarch in play. When you Temple Thought-Knot Seer, then you just have the 1 blue or green source in the Yavimaya, and you can't cast Hierarch and leave up Stubborn Denial. So you're technically ahead in that regard. So there is that. The way the game played out, it cost him quite a bit.
Yeah, I suppose, if you start on Temple into Thought-Knot, I'm trying to think if there's like some nut draws that you're dead to then, because you have nothing interactive.
I mean,
probably not. I mean, you get to Thought Season.
Yeah,
it's probably good enough.
Exactly. Thought-Knot is the interaction, Noble Hierarch it accelerates you to the same point you would have got to.
All right, so it's going to be a third game for Keenan, Davidson, and Tom Ross. Bant, Eldrazi, and Infect, the winner here locking up their spot in day 2. For Tom Ross, it's all about keeping pace in that Players' Championship race. If one of these two players, between Tom Ross and Jeff Hoagland, if one makes day 2 while the other does not, it's a huge blow.
Oh, yeah. Very high-pressure matches here for both players.
Well, they get ready for the third game. I'll talk to you a bit about the StarCityGames.com Creature Collection. So these are the assortments of different adorable animals that you see both on our game night pins and just at the store in general. So this month, which has been October, we've been giving away Hedgehog-a-Hog. That's the parody of a Tog-a-Tog. We've had it as our game night reward on pins and tokens. It's now available as part of the Creature Collection. You on playmats and sleeves. You can pick up that one now at the SCG store, illustrated by our own Andrea Radek. Also, the ferret token, and these ones we don't always. I don't think people see them as much because they're not part of game night. But some of these just regular creatures are among my favorites. We have that ferret there.
It's got a little Alvin in the Chipmunks.
Yeah. StarCityGames.com/creature collection. Keenan on the play, game 3. Both players have kept 7s. Starts off, once again, with some sort of mana creature here. Looks like we have a Noble Hierarch.
And with Engineered Explosives being one of your big removal spells in the matchup, being on the play is huge.
Got to watch out for something. There's a temple, it looks like, in Keenan's hand, so might have that turn 2 Thought Knot yet again, which those are so good.
Kind of hoping for a turn 1 Twisted Image. I'm not going to lie.
I thought you learned.
I thought I did this in game 2.
All right. Breeding Pool to play for Tom. He'll have a 1-drop of his own. Could be the Twisted Image. We also have Glistener Elves and Noble Hierarchs in the deck.
Much higher hit rate on those cards.
Well, we'll start on Gitaxian Probe. Maybe we hit. All right, we're going to take a look. He's got a Hallowed Fountain, an Eldrazi Temple, then a Path, an Ancient Stirrings, and an Eldrazi Sky Spawner.
This hand is putting a lot of pressure on Ancient Stirrings to find a good card, which, to be fair, it digs very deep.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way it's a ship. He's got the Noble Hierarch, he has Path.
Sky Spawner's pretty good in this matchup.
Drop returns Brushland, so now he's a bit heavy on the lands. He'll go ahead and stir to try to find something bigger and better. We see Eldrazi Displacer, Thought Knot Seer. We'll see what he wants to take. Stirrings is just, this card's so good.
It's pretty messed up.
Yeah. Now, Displacer actually does a lot of work against Infect. You see Keenan looking at taking it over Thought Knot Seer, which, if he makes the move, that's a very big endorsement of the card.
So the dividends that these two cards pay, Thought Knot Seer is immediate. You get to see the hand. You get to take a spell. Displacer has the potential to just overpower combat once you get to enough mana.
So Keenan ends up going for the powerful Thought Knot Seer. He'll get the dividend early. Makes Sky Spawner for the turn, adds a Scion, and passes.
And against a deck as fast as Infect, I do like going for the Thought Knot Seer. You can find a Displacer eventually. He's playing 4 copies.
So Displacer is one of those lock out the late game cards. And I think I agree with you. Keenan doesn't need Displacer to win. Drowner would work too. But Thought Knot, I don't think there's a good replacement for.
Yes.
Tom is going to play Blighted Agent, passing the turn. Leaves up the Pendelhaven to protect it. We go back to Keenan. Plays Hallowed Fountain untapped. Both players know about the Thought Knot Seer in Keenan's hand. He's going to play it and leaves up a blue mana. And look at Tom's hand. Oh my gosh. We have Might of Old Krosa, Might of Old Krosa, Vines of Vastwood, Blossoming Defense.
It's a couple pump spells.
Wait a minute. This isn't 10, is it? So it's 8, 2 from the Blighted Agent, a pump of 4 from Might of Old Krosa, a pump of 4 from Might of Old Krosa, a pump of 4 from Vines. Is Keenan dead through a Thought Knot Seer? That's disgusting, if true.
Yeah, that blue or white mana has to do something here. And there's a Path to Exile in hand. Okay, so he has to navigate this in a way that these protection spells...
No, he's still dead if he doesn't Path right now, right? Because Tom just says, Might my guy. Might my guy.
And then you have Blossoming
Swing.
Defense.
There's still Vines. They took the Blossoming Defense, but there's Vines there too.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't even matter if you pump with the Vines. Just dead in every way.
This deck's stupid. He had a Thought Seize and he's still dead.
Thoughtseize and a path.
Not enough. That's not fair at all.
Try again. If this Eldrazi Scion can cast a Dismember.
It's just like his deck's playing a stack of Pact of Negations, is what it feels like. which I mean, I'm way into that. That's.
You can't have a pump spell that counters spells that most decks are playing and tell me that counter spell is too good for Modern. Right? That's a pretty heinous claim.
Tom did not need this land, but he will certainly take it. Breeding Pool is the play. Yeah, Keenan's dead. This is gross.
Tom has to go for it. He is probably thinking about that Scion turning into a Dismember.
Has to go for it. I guess, okay, so if it's Dismember and Path, all right, Might of Old Krosa. First he pumps Might of Old Krosa, Might of Old Krosa. Okay, the thing's really big now. Keenan is holding the second one on the stack. So what Tom's doing is he let the first one resolve so that Dismember doesn't really... I mean, it gets him, but it doesn't get him. It doesn't kill the agent anymore.
Right. This play is stopping the potential Dismember from killing the agent, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's why we went for the Pendelhaven first, is that the first Might would pull it out of range of a Dismember.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Keenan says, this is dumb. Yeah, I'll path it. Okay, I'll Vines it. Game and match to Tom Ross.
Pretty wild stuff.
I do want to give Tom props, too. Okay, so his deck served him up a great hand there, but the thing of... Normally, just the two Mights actually are lethal. It's 10. I like how he works the Pendelhaven into the line to give him insurance against Path Dismember. A lot of times people, I think, see the winning line and don't look for the more winning line. And Tom did a great job of just going farther.
He navigated around everything that could have been there, and let's be real, he earned Game 3. Game 2 was navigated so well by Tom there.
Yeah, I mean... So Tom's a great player. That does sometimes when you play a great player with a great deck, your great deck serves you up wins.